I remember also in 2014 leaving the Maidan and going to my friend's apartment, not very far away, on Red Army Street, which I know is not the official name of the street, but it's still the name that everyone uses, which is in itself quite telling. And I couldn't sleep because I heard the neighbors arguing across the wall. And I gathered from the conversation that it was a mother and a daughter, and that the daughter was old enough to have her own children. And the daughter was clearly pro-Maidan. And she kept saying, we are Ukrainian, we have to support this movement, and your president, Yanukovych, for whom you voted, he's to blame, and he betrayed the Ukrainian people. The mother, on the other hand, was panicking. And she was accusing her daughter of playing fast and loose with her children's future. She was saying our future lies with Russia because the West has no good intentions towards us. And she represented the legacies of what I in the book call conservative patriotism. This conservative patriotism may be mistaken in many of its assumptions, but it needs to be taken seriously because it has very deep roots in Ukraine among self-identified Ukrainians. These people are not simply manipulated by Russian propaganda today. These people are not simply passive victims. They are passive victims of media manipulation. Rather, they build on the legacies of what I in the book call Soviet conservative patriotism. Soviet conservative patriotism was an ideology that was espoused by many Ukrainian-speaking Ukrainians. It was an ideology that did not preclude people from being active citizens. People were conservative patriots, and yet they criticized the state, and they went out and protested against what they didn't like. And just mirroring those patterns from the Soviet period, people who cling on to this vision of Ukrainianness people who cling on to the vision of Ukraine as a country that needs to remain in a very close alliance with Russia are still citizens who are prepared to stand up for what they believe. And that's why I think we need to take them seriously rather than dismissing them as simply being duped by Russian propaganda. I'm not trying to say that we should simply give in and say, okay, well, if these people think that, then we should just accept it. I think we need to acknowledge that these views are deeply rooted in order to find ways of arguing against them. And we also need to acknowledge that we need to understand where these views are rooted in order to know how to fight against these views. So I would say, for instance, that notions of Soviet conservative patriotism that I think a lot of inhabitants of Ukraine still espouse today, they are not only about loyalty to Russia. They are also underpinned by the belief that citizens have the right to access information, that loyal citizens have the right to live in prosperity. This is what advocates of Soviet conservative patriotism claimed back in the USSR. And I think there are ways of selling reform, of showing how moving away from Soviet practices and Soviet post-Soviet international relations can help to realize some of the demands that loyal Soviet citizens had been voicing back in the 1970s and the 1980s. So I think what is inspiring perhaps about this book is that we see that even the people who were staunch Soviet patriots, who were not supportive of the collapse of the Soviet Union and who believe that Russians and Ukrainians are quote-unquote brothers who are destined to be together forever, that these people espouse views that the Maidan represents today. That they espouse certain, let me rephrase that they believe in the importance of citizenship. And I think that they can be reached because of that.